Good evening. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of Chapter 5. Now, Chapter 5 flows logically from Chapter 4. Where Chapter 4, to me, all of the chapters lead right into the next one, and that's why I designed it this way. But in Chapter 4, we looked at how you can practice self-regulation, and we looked at it primarily in terms of reading because that is such a crucial skill. But what I want to do in Chapter 5 is take a look at, okay, so you know how you can self-regulate, how you can say to yourself, did I understand this? Was I focused on this? What can I do differently? But what I want to do this time is take a bigger view to look at how we learn things. And then you're going to think about, well, if this is what you know about how you learn certain things, how can you create a good study plan for yourself so that you'll be prepared for taking a test, and that so you can prepare well for a test, and that then when you are in a test situation that you can actually do a good job with it. And when my daughter was in middle school, I'm thinking it might have been 5th grade, she had a teacher who liked to say, we need to activate your schema. And basically what he was saying is, in order to learn something new, it's generally easier for us if we can hook it to something we already know. So that's what he meant by activate your schema. What do you already know about this topic? All right, let's take that as the jumping off point. So what you're going to see in Chapter 5 is we're going to take a look back at the brain. So really, obviously, when you get into this, look at these two questions. And as you're going through this chapter, you're thinking about subjects where you did well and subjects where you didn't do well. But I want you to think about, what do you remember about the brain and the different parts of the brain? And what do you remember about the advice I gave you when you were looking at this chapter? Because it was going to be somewhat vocabulary heavy. So you're going to see in the section called The Brain Revisited, I talk about 4 different parts of the brain. Some should be familiar and some maybe not so much. So that's just, that's our kind of our jumping off point, and how these different parts of the brain go into how we learn and how we remember things. Then we're going to talk about studying. Honestly, I think this is, well, I say this about every chapter. This might be one of my favorite things, the favorite subjects. Benedict Carey wrote a book called How We Learn, and I should know, it's, 200 pages. And what I tried to do was to distill all of this work into a couple of key ideas about how we learn, and so possibly how best to study. So what I did is I've summarized things, and then I've written what the bottom line is. And I bolded it because I know, and I put it in red because I know that'll jump out a little bit. Okay. From that, we look at test preparation and test taking. And I know that some people find tests to be extremely stressful. And as I say here, the textbook that I used to use called On Course, which is an excellent, wonderful textbook, and it costs about $100 some odd, and I just couldn't justify having you guys spend that much. So he says, we all know that tests are important, but tests are just a game. Easier said than done for a lot of us. But I was definitely a strange little child, but I remember being in, it was either 3rd or 4th grade, and having to do some standardized math test and feeling a little bit nervous. And I concocted this story in my head that I wasn't actually going to be, they weren't going to look at how I did on the test. They needed subjects for this experiment to see how students reacted to test situations and how nervous they were, and And for some reason that helped, and I ended up doing actually really well. I was a little bit of a math whiz as a kid. That evaporated as I got older. So anyways, we'll talk about test taking and test preparation. This is a relatively short chapter, so I want you to read the chapter. Then what I want you to do, can I get in there? When you get into, I'm having problems. When you get into the course, I want you to go to course content. This is for the discussion. And then I want you to scroll down to supplemental material. And then when you click on study skills, what I've done is I've found, there's so many. I've gotten about 10 different videos on how you can be better at reading, writing, math, note-taking, and motivation. And then for general study skills, this website is UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley. And it's a huge, wonderful website. You might want to wander around in it. This one, the math tips, was created by our very own math professor, Professor Sue Lounsbury. So what I'm asking you to do in the discussion is to watch one of these. I want you to pick an area where you feel you have struggled. And then you're gonna write your discussion about that. One thing I want to say about the discussions is please be relatively detailed. Remember, let's say you decide you're going to write about 10 ways to motivate yourself to study. Well, the person who responds to you should be someone who did not watch that, because what I'm asking you to do when you post your discussion is to pick an area where you have struggled. And then I'm going to ask people when you respond to pick an area where you feel you have some strength. And you're going to, so I'm making this up. Okay, so Leslie says that she is not motivated to study. So she watches the video, 10 Ways to Motivate Yourself to Study. And Maya knows that she is super motivated to study. So she goes in and she reads Leslie's post and says, Leslie said, this is what I learned, but I still have a problem with. And so here's my suggestion. On the other hand, Leslie knows that she is a good writer. And so because Rukia has said she struggles with writing, she's written 5 ways, she's watched 5 ways to improve your writing, and then Leslie's going to go in there. So because you are commenting on somebody's post and they are commenting, because you are writing a post that someone who hasn't seen this video is going to comment on, you need to do a decent summary. Don't assume that the person who's commenting has watched this video. I hope that makes sense. I got kind of lost in what I was saying there. One other thing, so that's the discussion. I have to put up the journal. Your college and career assignment is also there. So anyways, I plan, unfortunately, to be checking in my email and being in the course just about every day except for Thanksgiving. So if you have any questions, please either email me or message me in the course, send me a text. I know on Wednesday I have a meeting with my department co-chair. I will also probably be making bread for Thanksgiving, so Wednesday's a little bit tricky. So, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are better days to get in touch with me, or Friday, because I'm not going to be doing any shopping on whatever that day is, Black Friday. All right. I hope you have a good rest of the weekend, and I look forward to talking to you later. And stop.